Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Dan Kane give an update on Operation Epic Fury this morning at the Pentagon. Secretary Hegseth says the U.S. military doesn't play games.
2 days ago, under the direction and direct orders of President Donald J. Trump, the Department of War launched Operation Epic Fury, the most lethal, most complex, and most precise aerial operation in history. Unlike so many of our traditional allies who wring their hands and clutch their pearls, hemming and hawing about the use of force, America, regardless of what so-called international institutions say, is unleashing the most lethal and precise air power campaign in history. B-2s, fighters, drones, missiles, and of course, classified effects. All on our terms, with maximum authorities. No stupid rules of engagement, no nation-building quagmire, no democracy-building exercise, no politically correct wars. We fight to win, and we don't waste time or lives.
General Dan Kane says operations will remain active across the theater and across the globe.
The U.S. forces are postured not only to maintain pressure, but to respond and adapt as required. Operation Epic Fury stands as a reminder of what the United States military uniquely delivers: the ability to project power on a global scale with speed, surprise, precision, and overwhelming force when and where our nation requires it.
Following the joint military operation by the U.S. and Israel that eliminated Iran's supreme leader, Iran is launching retaliatory strikes across the Middle East. As several Israeli cities have been hit, the IDF is expanding their offensive. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu touring one of the sites hit hard today.
When I stand here in a place that was bombarded by the terrorists in Tehran against innocent civilians, you see the difference. The tyrants of Tehran target civilians. We target the tyrants of Tehran to protect civilians. And if this regime, this terrorist regime of the kind we've never seen in the world, if they get nuclear weapons and the means to deliver them, ballistic missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles, they will threaten all of humanity.
Law enforcement is investigating whether a shooter who killed 2 people and wounded 14 others in Austin, Texas, early Sunday was a terrorist inspired by the ongoing war in Iran. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says he's worried there could be other possible terrorists in the U.S.
The United States has to do a far better job in trying to vet and evaluate and ongoingly evaluate those who've come to our country who could pose a danger.
A former Texas political leader says she hopes the current Republican Attorney General is not going to be the party's nominee for the U.S. Senate. More from Chad Groening.
On Friday, President Trump made his first post-State of the Union trip to Texas, where 3 Republicans are battling it out in Tuesday's U.S. Senate GOP primary. Incumbent John Cornyn is vying for his 5th term and is being challenged by State Attorney General Ken Paxton and U.S. Representative Wesley Hunt in a primary fight that has become viciously personal. Trump's hesitation to endorse in the primary speaks to the tricky dynamics of the race. Paxton has faced allegations of marital infidelity by his wife, State Senator Angela Paxton. Senate Majority Leader John Thune and South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, chairman of the National Republican Senatorial Committee, have urged Trump to endorse Cornyn. Kathy Adams is a former president of the Republican Party of Texas.
I think it's going to be very strong help for whoever does get that endorsement, and I'm just hoping that it is not Ken Paxton. I would be happy with John Cornyn. I would be happy with Wesley Hunt. I would not be happy with Ken Paxton because of the immorality. I just don't think that that is a good representative for the state of Texas. It's not good for our future.
If no candidate reaches 50% in Tuesday's primary, the top 2 finishers will advance to a May 26 runoff. I'm Chad Groening.
There's more news online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app for your Apple or Android device. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Every day, AFA offers biblical insight on issues that others aren't willing to touch in the hopes that you'll become a world changer. That's why we're offering an in-depth worldview training course called Activate. 13 different professors teaching 18 sessions, all available online, including a printed workbook to help you apply what you've learned and 1-year access to AFA streaming content to give you even more resources. Find out more about Activate and sign up today at activate.afa.net.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildmon, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR on this Monday, March the 2nd, 2026. I'm Tim Wildmon with Ed Vitagliano. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Tim.
And Fred Jackson.
Good morning, Tim.
Ladies and gentlemen, because there's not much happening in the world today, we are going to play music now for the next hour and 50 minutes or so.
It's not a day to talk hockey, right?
I know, and not probably. I know that's probably a bad joke.
That's
yeah. We're
that,
loaded.
I like that.
Yeah.
This is a heavy news day.
Yeah, heavy news day. Unless you've had your head in the sand,
right?
Like an ostrich. Which, by the way, sometimes that's a good idea.
I feel that way sometimes on Monday morning.
I would just rather not know all this. But on U.S. time, Saturday morning, Fred, early, so would have been somewhere between midnight and 3 a.m. for most of us here in the U.S. Our military and the Israeli military went to war with Iran, right?
That is correct. President Trump was campaigning in Corpus Christi on Friday afternoon, and we are told that's when he made the decision that the mission to attack Iran was a go. What we understand is that the Israelis had intelligence that on Saturday morning, around, let's say, 8 o'clock Tehran time, that the Islamic regime there and their military people planned a meeting. So the Israelis knew this. Just guessing here, they get in contact with President Trump, and now's the time to do it if we want to go after the head of the snake, as some people have referred to. So that's why when we were waking up here in the United States early on Saturday morning, the attack was well underway. Mm-hmm. And so we were getting kind of firsthand information. It's unusual. A lot of the military experts were saying it's unusual to do a daytime initial attack. That doesn't normally happen, but the goal here was to get the leadership of Iran in one spot. They were there. Now was the time to go. Of course, the United States has been staging its military assets around Iran for the last 3 weeks or so. So everything was in place and ready to go.
All right, before we get into what's happened and talk about and even what's happening even today with Iran, I think it's a good idea to lay the groundwork for the reason for this mission. Because it's being, some people are saying, well, this is not America first, and we don't want to get involved in foreign wars and things of that nature, which were a part of President Trump's MAGA movement that he started. That is, no new wars. We don't want to. People were exhausted by Iraq and Afghanistan, and Americans were, and I understand that, and I agreed with that. So we don't want to get involved in any new wars, right? So that's one of the it's one of the pillars of the MAGA movement, the
Yes.
Make America Great Again. However, that doesn't mean that there isn't a reason. There wouldn't come up a reason along President Trump's presidency that he would not have to act. Did I use the double negative there? And he would have to.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay, and he would have to make a decision on the part of of our country on what is best to do to protect us. So, is this where the Pete Hegseth?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to say Pete Hegseth, our Secretary of War, gave his first really formal briefing this morning. And I thought when he opened it up, he's answering the question that you're asking,
Okay.
Tim, as to why are we doing this?
Okay.
Why are we doing it now? So cut number 3, Brent.
2 days ago, under the direction and direct orders of President Donald J. Trump, the Department of War launched Operation Epic Fury, the most lethal, most complex, and most precise aerial operation in history. Unlike so many of our traditional allies who wring their hands and clutch their pearls, hemming and hawing about the use of force, America, regardless of what so-called international institutions say, is unleashing the most lethal and precise air power campaign in history. B-2s, fighters, drones, missiles, and of course, classified effects. All on our terms, with maximum authorities. No stupid rules of engagement, no nation-building quagmire, no democracy-building exercise, no politically correct wars. We fight to win, and we don't waste time or lives.
So that was Pete Hegseth. He went on for quite a while this morning, basically saying Iran has been a threat. They voice what they feel about America and Israel, and we knew that Iran was rebuilding its nuclear capability. He talked about they've been stalling with negotiations, air quotes there, over the last 2 or 3 weeks. But the United States had intelligence that they were coming back with their nuclear capabilities, their ballistic missile development, and now was the time to act.
Okay, so hold on a second. Sneezing doesn't. Potential for sneezing doesn't stop because you're live on national radio.
It pays no attention at all.
It doesn't care. So I have thwarted that right now. Okay.
Successful thwart.
So here we go. All right. I think it's important, even beyond what Pete Hegseth laid out there, for people to understand. And this comes down to a matter of whether you believe this or not, what I'm about to say. All right. Because we have been dealing with Iran, America has, for decades. All right, I'm going to lay it out as clear as I can. You guys correct me or add anything if you want to, because you have to understand the reason why President Trump did what he did and the Israelis did what they did. You have a theocracy, a religious Islamic theocracy in control of a country of 90 million people in Iran. I think it's 90 million people. It's pretty big country. They have been threatening with the United States and Israel. The United States is the great Satan. The U.S. is Israel is the little Satan. They have a theological belief. They control the country and they control the weapons and the army. They have a theological belief that it's their job, given to them by Allah, to kill the infidel, and especially America and Israel. They want to take us. They wanted to take us down, and we've had numerous examples of them attacking us by either directly or their proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, for decades now. And they've issued fatwas. Is that what you call them?
Fatwas.
Fatwas. These are religious dissertations as to what their intentions are, and it is clear that they wanted to kill Americans and Jews and Israelis. But despite there being no other reason other than their religious beliefs to take out the infidel, the Israelis have not done anything to Iran to provoke this. It's just because Iran hates Jews. Okay. So now, if you have somebody like I've just described who is driven by their religious dogma, and they are about to successfully build a nuclear weapon that can reach Israel and that could potentially reach the United States of America or some of our people in the region that are our friends. A nuclear weapon, in other words, to start a nuclear war, which they believe is a mission from Allah. Okay, so the question right there begins: well, what do you do about it? If you have the capability of stopping this by using force, then do you do that, or do you wait and see do you wait and see until they can launch a weapon on and kill millions of people potentially in America or Israel or other parts of the world? Or do you just play the wait and see game? So that's the decision that the President of the United States has to make a call on, as do the Israelis, and they're more sensitive to this than Americans are. We're an ocean away. Okay, Israel is 1,500 miles, 12 to 1,500 miles from Iran. Now, granted, if Iran launched a nuclear weapon on Israel, Israel would retaliate with their own nuclear weapons. I mean, it would be a top 10 world history event if something like that happened. So my point is, the President of the United States and his team had reached a deciding point that, okay, and by the intelligence that we had through the CIA and the Israelis, that Iran was just about ready to complete their nuclear weapon. Negotiations had gone nowhere. Americans and Israel had, especially the Americans, negotiating with the Iranians, had told them, all you got to do is say you're not going to build a nuclear weapon and let us check and verify that you're complying with that. That's all you got to do. Yes or no? The Iranians said, no, we're going to build our nuclear weapon. Now, they would say, no, we weren't, but then they wouldn't let us check. You see what I'm saying? So I think the bottom line of this exhaustive explanation is to say that this came down to a judgment call on the part of the President of the United States, whether or not do you want to take out Iranians' threat now, or do you want to see if they're going to use it or not? Now, had Iran got a nuclear weapon and we not done anything here, and they used it because they're a religious dogma to kill the infidel, then guess what history would say? Well, Donald Trump had all this information that the threat was imminent, and he did nothing because he didn't want to get America involved in a foreign war. You see what I'm saying? I'm using quotations.
Right.
So anyway, what do you think? What do you guys think about what this came down to? A decision, a judgment call on the part of the president, his team, whether it was time to act now or not.
Well, I just want to say two things about it. By the way, excellent job.
Thank you.
First thing is that I do want to add something in terms of their ideology, the Iranians' ideology, and that is not only kill the infidel, but also create the chaos that will lead to world war, which they believe will bring in their 12th Imam, their renowned leader. So this is a partial explanation for why Iran is always funding terrorist groups, even in the Middle East, is not only to go after Israel, but to try to foment displeasure with Muslim governments that are too Western friendly, and overthrow them and have their governments radical Shiites as well. So that's why they're always involved. That's why they're the largest exporter of terrorism around the world. That's why I think, it's my guess from what I've been reading, that a lot of these Muslim countries that are Arab are behind the scenes saying to America and Israel, go for it, because we cannot have that bully with nuclear weapons, talking about Iran,
in our neighborhood.
In the neighborhood. The second thing I just want to make mention of is, to your point, Tim, about the disagreements that do exist, that have existed and will continue to exist inside this country about what do we do. And I think as much as I hate foreign involvement in war, I was glad President Trump said no more unnecessary wars. This seems like a trigger that had to be pulled, pardon the expression, because the reason Iran was saying, yeah, we'll talk, we'll have negotiations, is, as you said, they were just stringing this out. They wanted a nuclear weapon and they wanted to use it.
Right.
Now, I don't know how close they are to having gotten one, but our government says they were close. People out there listening are saying, you always believe what the government says? No, but I don't have access to intelligence. I'm talking about, CIA and national security
and the
agency.
Israelis believe this too, because they were willing to commit all their assets and go to, potentially receive the threats that Iran would launch at them. They believed in this mission so much.
And that's why you have, even within the MAGA movement and in this country, you have anti-Israel sentiment. I can barely go on X after this because there are people arguing. I mean, they're doing everything but arm wrestling. They are arguing over whether this is just another Israeli stunt to get us to do their bidding, as opposed to those who are saying, no, I think the world is a safer place with Ayatollah Khomeini dead. Now the question is, now what? Who's going to be in charge? But that's a question we can handle. But anyway, that's the only thing I would say.
So whether you agree with this or not depends on whether you believe President Trump that Iran was an imminent threat with a nuclear weapon. If you don't believe that and you just say, no, he's lying, he just wanted to go to war, that's a real stretch. I don't care if you have Trump derangement syndrome. That's really a stretch, because I doubt very seriously. I don't believe it. I don't believe at all that President Trump would go to war, would authorize us going to war with Iran if he didn't believe what I just said.
Listen, what previous presidents had all said, we're talking even Barack Obama.
Oh, yeah.
They'd all said, we cannot let Iran get a nuclear weapon.
Right.
We knew they wanted one, and I'm with you. You call President Trump a liar? How do you know? You think President Trump's telling the truth about this? How do you know? We don't know. We have to trust our elected leaders. I know trust is in short supply, and to a large extent, the federal government has earned that distrust. But somewhere along the line, we got to say the people in charge are. We have to trust them to do the right thing.
Let me just show you another thing here about this Trump derangement syndrome, which is defined as anything Trump is for, I'm against, or anything he's against, I'm for.
Right.
Okay. It's an irrational. These people don't have the ability to say, I agree with Trump here, I don't agree with him here. I agree with him here, I don't agree with him here. They just said, no, we don't, anything he does, we're going to disagree with. That's Trump derangement syndrome. Okay, so what you have here, if you read the words of people like Chuck Schumer, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, and other top Democrats, here's what most of them are saying. Iran was a bully. They were a threat to the world. Something needed to be done, but Trump did it the wrong way. read their statements. It's like Gavin Newsom was, I could read it too. It's like very convoluted. He's saying, they were represented a real threat, Iran did, but Trump didn't talk to them long enough. It's really bizarre. You're going like, so you're criticizing what he's done to stop Iran from a nuclear weapon because you don't like him.
Yeah. Right.
Basically. Go ahead, Fred.
I heard a comment on the weekend, which I thought was interesting. We in the West sometimes do not understand there is real evil in the world, like real evil. I think in the past, including some American presidents, thought we can negotiate with Iran. We can bring them to the table. But to go to your point, Tim, a few moments ago, the mentality of the Iranian Islamic regime is to take over the world.
Yeah.
It's a religious ideology.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's what people have to they're driven they don't want more land.
No, we're not dealing with the Chinese here.
No.
Who are just atheistic or the Russians or anybody. We're dealing with the people who don't care about that. They don't care about money necessarily.
Well, and to that point, they don't even care about their own people.
No.
This Islamic regime.
No.
I heard on the weekend anywhere from 25 to 30,000 of those Iranians that were marching in the streets of Tehran.
Right.
They just murdered them.
Yes, they murdered them.
We did a story on Friday where the Islamic regime had people set up at the hospitals where these protesters were to be treated. They were shooting the protesters as they came into the hospital to get treatment. They were telling the medical staff at the hospital, do not treat these people.
Right.
People were being arrested, those protesters, and then they would execute them at the jail.
And bury them in mass graves so that the family could not claim the bodies.
Yes. So don't think for a moment it was like negotiations. That's the
Well-
United Nations mentality. Why can't we all just get along?
Well, we did, diplomacy was tried here. President Trump, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, tried exhaustively for the last few months to talk some sense into the Iranians, and they would have none of it. They insisted on, they would say, we're not building a nuclear weapon. Americans and the Israelis, particularly Americans, would say, yes, you are. We know you are. And they would say, well, we're not going to stop doing what we're doing, and we don't care what you say or do. Now, remember, President Barack Obama, his idea of dealing with the Iranians was to send them millions and millions of dollars of cash in an unmarked airplane that was found out. Remember that?
Yes.
Now, to try to get them, I guess, and I don't know what else he did, Barack Obama, but that was his idea. Maybe we'll buy them off, the Iranians, to keep them from doing something. But this just comes down, basically, the rightness or wrongness of it comes down to whether or not you believe that President Trump and his team and others that have said that Iran represented an imminent threat to, they were that close to developing a nuclear weapon which they would use.
Yes.
If you don't believe that, then I can't, what am I trying to say here? If you don't believe that, then I can see where you would say, well, we just needed to keep talking to them forever.
Yeah.
Without any change.
And the rest of the world, whether they're admitting it or not, I listened to the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte this morning, got number 14. Have a listen to this.
The Commander-in-Chief, the leader of the free world, President Donald J. Trump, I really commend what is happening here. Taking out Khamenei, taking out the nuclear capability in Iran, but also taking out the ballistic missile program in Iran. This is crucial. And what I see in Europe, I spoke with all the key European leaders over the weekend, is widespread support for what the president is doing, and also making sure that when it comes to logistics, access, defending key U.S. interests in Europe and in the region, the Europeans are really stepping up.
Yeah. So he's saying he talked to all the European leaders, and they're saying, go Trump, go Israel.
Listen, Khamenei and that Iranian regime, they're a wild card. And they have been a wild card, but they're a wild card that was seeking nuclear weapons. Any country that wants to survive, how would you like to be Jordan or Saudi Arabia if Iran gets a nuclear weapon and they say, we're going to launch it at Israel, even if Israel shoots it down?
Right, it lands over Oman.
It might go somewhere and
Saudi
explode.
Arabia.
Or if it does land in Israel, you got that poison cloud of radiation air blowing in from the Mediterranean. It's going to go somewhere. None of these countries wanted Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Whether they come out publicly and say so or not is another thing. Also, because Iran was sponsoring terrorism around the world, these European countries didn't want Iran to be doing that anymore either.
Well, France was bold, weren't they here? As usual.
Well, they have more Muslims probably than any other country. They probably have to mind their P's and Q's.
Macron.
He
came out and said this is dangerous or something like that.
Yeah.
He was not supportive.
Well, you know what? Fighting the Nazis was dangerous too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, French president's words were not supportive.
Yeah.
I don't know that they were necessarily against, but they certainly weren't supportive of Israel and the United States and their actions here. All right. That joke was fitting in with the French stereotype of waving the white flag before the war ever starts, right? Maybe that's not fair. I don't know. We'll be back momentarily. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
It was a borrowed car. Mine was in the shop. I had looked at the gas gauge earlier and it registered half full. But there I was, sitting nearly directly under a traffic light at one of the busiest intersections in town. I had checked the motor out pretty good and decided that the trouble was either a bad fuel pump or just plain out of gas. I raised the hood on the car as a signal to those behind me that I was having trouble. It certainly wasn't an ideal location to have car trouble, but the car was too heavy for me to push out of the line of traffic by myself. I left it unattended long enough to make a phone call to the garage and inform them of my troubles. They said they would send a wrecker immediately. After I returned to the car, I decided to give it a try to see if I was indeed out of gas. There was a gas station just directly across the street, so I walked over and asked the attendant if he had a gas can that I could borrow to get some gas in to take to the car, which he could see. He told me he didn't have one, that someone had borrowed his and had not returned it. I then asked him if he had anything that I could carry some gas in, that my car was stranded in the middle of the street, as he could see, and I figured it just might be out of gas. Well, I got the cold shoulder treatment all the way. He said he didn't have a thing to carry gas in, and said it in such a way that I got the message. I saw a water can and several empty oil cans around, but I decided that if he didn't want to help, I wouldn't try to force him. I walked back to the car and stood outside to wait for the wrecker. I guess I waited something like 15 to 20 minutes. Several hundred cars passed me at that intersection. They were all makes and models. Some expensive cars passed, and some that were more in my class drove by. Nearly all the drivers gave me a look. They were mixed looks. Some didn't like it because I was blocking traffic. Others looked as if they saw a man who was having car trouble, but it wasn't of any interest to them. I watched them all pass me by, and in my mind was a thought, isn't anybody going to offer to help? I must admit I got a totally negative reply to my self-question. Nobody was interested in the least way in helping me. Well, being a Mississippian, I thought at least someone would stop to help. I was in the hospitality state, and I was a native of it. By and by, I noticed a very old model car, which appeared as if it might stop running at any moment, and it began to pull alongside as if it was going to stop. I noticed that the man who was driving the car was a black gentleman. He and his wife and family, about 5 children, were in the car. He got out. I saw he was dressed in clothes full of holes and patches. He came up and spoke. "Anything I can do to help?" he asked. Well, I explained the situation to him and thanked him for his offer. But the wrecker was on his way, and really there wasn't much he could do to help. But as he drove away, I thought of the parable of the Good Samaritan. Indeed, the truths that the Galilean carpenter taught are enforced by the experiences of everyday life.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildmon, a production of the American Family Association.
When you see trash in the media, submit it to 1millionmoms.com. Over the years, 1 million moms and our partners have improved advertising choices of programmers and content seen on TV. Just like you, 1 million moms want to protect little eyes and ears from the trash that could hurt them. So when you see trash in the media, visit 1millionmoms.com. Scroll down and look for the Submit Trash button.
Take it away!
1millionmoms.com.
You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. Jeremiah 29:13.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. I'm Tim with Ed and Fred, and we're going to get back to our the big news story. Obviously, is what's happening with the United States and Iran. The Israelis are involved, as well as those two countries are. And some of the Saudi countries now, some of the Arab countries in the Gulf have. They're considering military actions themselves against Iran because Iran launched missiles into some of those countries, including Qatar,
Kuwait,
Dubai. Dubai is not a country; it's a city, but that's in the United Arab Emirates, right?
Yep.
Bahrain, is that the way you pronounce it?
Bahrain.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, the Iranians launched something at Cyprus this morning. So I think, anyway, so we're going to get back to that conversation. But before we do that, I want to talk about something we do here at American Family Association, American Family Radio, that you might want to be aware of. And joining us is Chelsea Wildmon. Good morning, Chelsea.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
What's your job title here?
I'm the Associate Director at our AFA Foundation department.
Okay, how'd you get the job?
Well,
did you know anybody?
I knew a few people.
Okay, so you had an inside track.
But I did have to apply and go through all the proper channels. Wesley said I had to do it by the book.
By the book. Well, you did, and you do a great job.
And there were several red flags, I do want to say, but we overlooked those.
Right.
Thank you for the grace.
Yeah, well, the 2-year jail thing was really.
Oh, goodness.
No, we're only kidding, people. Only joking here. Listen, there are people listening to us who support us, who are considering, helping us out financially in a way beyond just a monthly donation. And that's why I wanted to have you in here for just a moment, because we have what we call the AFA Foundation, which is part of our ministry to help people in what areas?
Yes, so we are the financial stewardship branch of the ministry, and we help our supporters and friends put in place charitable gift annuities, and then also help guide them if they are interested in leaving behind a bequest, whether that be maybe some stock, when they pass, or possibly a life insurance policy, etc. And also, we provide a will example if they are interested in that. So what they would do is look at that will example, take that to their attorney, and then that saves on some, attorney fee time.
Okay, I was in Oklahoma last week and had a gentleman say, hey, I'm very interested in leaving you guys property that I own in my will. And how do I do that? That was his question to me.
Yes.
So if there are people listening to us right now and they believe in the mission of AFA and AFR, and they have a property, or they want to leave us in their will, and something of that nature, and are you the person they need to talk to? They need to talk to our folks in the foundation. Can they call you and talk to you personally?
Yes, absolutely. 1-800-326-4543, extension 345 is our phone number. So yes, give us a call, and I would love to speak with anyone who is interested in including us in their financial planning.
What about the website? Where can people go read?
Yes, afafoundation.net. And I'm so glad you brought up our website. We actually just did a new launch of a new look for our website. It's a little bit more up to date, a little bit, fresher, crisp, clean. Not necessarily fancy, just very simple. Because we want just, no fluff. We want to get you the information and have you feeling very informed when you leave our website.
Okay, what's that website again?
afafoundation.net.
I do have a question. If you're talking about people who want to donate different things to AFA, you mentioned land, Tim. What if, I'm just spitballing here, what if I or someone wanted to donate a family dog? It's a very nice dog, but the time has come.
You're talking about livestock?
It's a live dog. It's time to part ways. Want to donate it to the foundation?
Have you talked to Diane about this? Or
I didn't say it was me. This is just a hypothetical.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have never had that request before. No.
I don't think we can.
No, I don't think we do that.
We're not set up for that, Ed. I mean, we got offices here, but maybe I don't know, if somebody wants to donate livestock.
I'm asking for a friend kind of thing.
Okay. So last question, our AFA timeshare program, how long has this been around, and Ed he's not even paying attention. I thought he'd get a little laugh out of you on that one.
We don't have timeshares.
We don't have a
but we
timeshare
do
program?
have a charitable gift annuity, and that is what we offer the most in the foundation. So our charitable gift annuity, the way that works is you gift any amount, $2,000 or above, to AFA, and in exchange you would receive a fixed income for life, and that income percentage is dependent upon how old you are and when you give the gift, but you do get some great tax benefits from that. You get a partial tax deduction as well as a partial tax-free income, and then lifetime income until you pass, and
That
then
sounds
any
like a pretty
remaining
good deal to
funds.
me. A
Yes.
charitable gift annuity?
Yes.
Okay.
I had already said my thing, Tim. I had moved on. So I was taking a sip of Diet Coke when you were talking about the timeshare.
It's okay. I'm married to a son,
Right,
so I
right.
understand
You've heard all
the
this before.
humor, you know?
Right.
Or lack of it.
And as I've asked Riley here when she's been on this program before, if people call our foundation, do all the women talk like you do?
We do.
Okay.
We do. We
So
have
you're
that
gonna get
southern
What way is
drawl.
that?
Well, you're going to get a Southern Belle.
There you go.
Yes.
If you call here, you're going to get a Southern Belle. Just be prepared. for
But I will say,
interpretation.
they not only sound smart,
Right.
but they are smart.
Yes.
These are all very smart
Right.
ladies.
They are. They really are.
They know what they're
do
doing.
a great job, and our foundation has exploded over the last few years. So whether it's a charitable gift annuity, you want to talk about a will or estate planning, what was the other biggie? Leaving us. If people want to leave us
In their will.
in their will or
Yes.
property, as the gentleman in Oklahoma was talking to me about last week. Whatever the case may be, what's the website again?
AFAfoundation.net.
AFAfoundation.net. Go there and read about everything we've talked about here with Chelsea. Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's Chelsea Wildmon. Yes, my daughter-in-law, and more importantly, my mother of my three of my grandchildren.
Like all the men in this studio,
Yeah.
Wesley married up. We all got better than we deserved.
Right, you trying to get past that dog thing where you wanted to give your dog.
I didn't. I never said it was me, Tim.
Well, you didn't know. You're right.
I was very careful to say I'm asking for a friend.
I'm just saying, Diane, to her credit, Ed's wife is a pet lover, right?
Yes, she is.
To the point of taking in strays and that kind of thing, right?
Just recently, in fact.
But that's happened down through your marriage.
Yes, it has many times.
The decades of stray dogs.
44
and cats
years, Tim.
that have been welcomed into the Battagliano home.
Oh, not welcomed by everybody. Not by everybody. But it happened anyway, if you get my drift.
Oh, we get your drift. All right, we got to reset.
Yeah,
right
let's
here.
reset.
We're
We got
at-
serious things to talk about.
All right, you're listening to today's issues on AFR. Tim, Ed, and Fred. Fred, go ahead.
Listening to a report this morning from a Daily Mail correspondent, Alina Shirazi, and she was addressing how Iranians around the world who have left that country, come to the United States, other countries, they are celebrating what the United States and Israel are doing right now in Iran. Cut number 12.
Are telling me, to your point, that they are overjoyed. They are thrilled. They are taking to the streets. You showed some videos here in the U.S., but in Iran, I've been sent videos of people cheering. They're creating blockades. And I'm even hearing reports from inside the country that Iranians are saying that the military has actually somewhat dissipated.
Oh, wow.
And that's not something that we have seen. So that is a huge development here. There's actually a message that I received that really stuck with me here that not only shows what's happening on the ground, but the resolve of the Iranian people moving forward when you ask what it is that Iranians want. One Iranian told me they're still hiding in the shadows, referring to the military. What's left of them, that is. We have not seen them. Are they afraid of us? Good.
Wow.
They should be.
Well, one person who disagrees with that report is the mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani. He is among the first just to condemn the United States. He said on Saturday, today's military strikes on Iran carried out by the United States and Israel mark a catastrophic escalation in an illegal war of aggression. bombing cities, killing civilians, opening a new theater of war. Americans do not want this. They do not want another war in pursuit of regime change.
You know what I would ask somebody like that?
Hmm.
That sounds great in a vacuum. That sounds great. It's just political rhetoric.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but who wants a war? Raise your hand if you want a war. Raise your hand. Oh, you're going to get 100% people saying, "Don't want a war." Want a war. What he doesn't address there, the mayor of New York, who, by the way, should probably stay in his own lane and worry about getting the streets cleaned up there after the snow Armageddon there hit them, getting the power back on. And all. Anyway, I would just say he needs to stay in his lane, because I would ask him, all right, Iran has a nuclear weapon. They're about to get it. They're that close. What would you do, sir, to stop them? What's your alternative? If you're going to say negotiations, we've tried that exhaustively. What's your? Or would you say no? Just let them have their nuclear weapon. Is that your? See what I'm saying? This is the question that these critics of President Trump are not answering. All they can say is we don't want a foreign war. We're tired of war. Americans don't want this. Okay, I would say who doesn't agree with that? But I would say, now, but how do you address the big issue of Iran getting a nuclear weapon? How do you address that, Ed? They don't want to answer that.
Part of the issue with proliferation of nuclear weapons, and that means that's what they call it when additional countries get nuclear weapons. So I don't think Israel has ever said officially that they have them, but everyone knows they do. Okay, other countries have nuclear weapons. And so I have actually read over the course of the last year or so, people saying, well, why can't Iran have a nuclear weapon? Other countries have them. Israel has them. I think the whole idea behind the arms race and proliferation is we want random country, we want to have nuclear weapons because our enemies have them, and this way we can have a standoff.
Right.
And nobody uses the nuclear weapons. Iran, on the other hand, is one of the few countries that nobody wants to have a nuclear weapon because they have stated publicly they intend to use it to kick off World War III, to obliterate Israel and the United States. So everyone else says, well, we don't want those nutcases getting one because they're actually going to use their nuclear weapons where everyone else, maybe nervously, has their nuclear weapons to keep their enemies from using theirs.
And I would say one thing to Mayor Mamdani. Look out your window, because while he was making these comments, Iranians who live in New York City were out on the street celebrating. So, Muslim Mayor Mamdani, look at your fellow Muslims down in the streets of your city. They totally disagree with you because they have lived the reality of what it's like under an Islamic regime.
I'll say something else too, and I'm not trying to overblow this, but the fact is, Iran, when these radicals staged their coup in 1979 and took the U.S. embassy, those embassies are considered to be the territory of the country that is represented by the embassy. So in a sense, they invaded U.S. soil. They took Americans hostage. You remember the days, day 203 of the hostage crisis. That was under President Carter's administration. From what I've read, the President Carter administration had told members, the Marines, whose job it is to guard these embassies, they could have shotguns with rock salt. That is all they were allowed to use. That kind of soft understanding of what your enemy is capable of may very well have contributed to the overthrow, or at least the taking of the embassy. But that was an attack against the United States in 1979. We're talking 46 whatever years later, okay? Now we are dealing with the fallout from that. These issues are very complex. It's not like you said, Tim, it's not just simply, well, let's just all get along. This is a regime birthed in bloodshed and they intend that blood to flow in other countries. And I'm not crazy about this war. I know President Trump has said here today he's not even ruling out putting boots on the ground. Boy, I would hate to see that. But war is messy and nasty, and when you're dealing with radicals who want you dead, you can't just sit back and do nothing.
Yeah.
Listen, there's a Iranian lady in New York City who is, I guess, fairly well known there, and she spoke back against Mayor Mamdani.
Mm-hmm.
He said, he criticized President Trump, said today's military strikes on Iran carried out by the United States and Israel mark a catastrophic escalation in an illegal war of aggression. That's what he called it. Mamdani, bombing cities, killing civilians, opening up theater where Americans don't want this. This is him commenting. They do want another war. They do not want another war in pursuit of regime change. They want relief from affordability crisis. They want peace. This is what Mamdani wrote. So in response to that, a New Yorker who is lady, she said this. She said back to him on X, which is formerly Twitter, to you, Zoran Mamdani, you stay quiet when you have you stay quiet when we have faced massacre, when Islamic Republic assassins were sent to us here in New York to kill us. Stay quiet now. Stop lecturing us Iranians about peace. I don't feel safe in New York listening to someone like you. She is just blistering him here. And she also said this. Anyway, she goes on to say New York belongs to people who stand against terrorism, not those who excuse it.
I'm not sure if this is the same lady, but remember the case goes back 4 or 5 years now. An Iranian woman who had moved to the United States, outwardly condemning the Iranian Islamic regime. There were 2 Russians convicted of trying to execute her. They had been hired by the Iranian regime to execute her, and they were convicted. This all happened in the last 2 or 3 years.
This is a story on Fox. This lady's name, I have a hard time pronouncing these foreign names sometimes. By foreign, I mean she's an American, but she's immigrated here. Evidently, her family is of Iranian descent. Mashih, and her last name is Alanjad. I guess it is. But she's just letting Mamdani have it. She said also that the Iranian government has recently killed more than 37 unarmed Iranian citizens in less than 24 hours. She said, you talk about safety.
Mm-hmm.
She's just mocking him. They shot schoolgirls and blinded more than 10,000. Remember reading about that? How they blinded them?
Yep.
10,000 people in the streets. You were busy celebrating the Hajj while women of my beloved country, Iran, were jailed and raped by the Islamic security forces for removing it.
Yeah.
Wow. Anyway.
This is an absolute evil regime. And I don't blame Iranians for wanting to see that toppled.
What happens now is the big question, I guess, Fred.
Well, the son of the Shah of Iran, his name is Reza Pahlavi. He is, of course, praising Trump, and many people perhaps have seen him in interviews, especially on Fox lately. There is a thought that he would go in and he would take over should the forces, Israeli and United States forces, be successful. Let's hear from him, cut number 11.
First, I want to share with you the sense of jubilation that millions of Iranians and the diaspora around the world have celebrated the death of the top henchman or monster of this regime, Ali Khamenei, and we thank President Trump for having brought us to a point of thinking that now we have a real chance to take over our country. This intervention was really what equalized the playing field for us. This is something we've been arguing all this time. People were asking for this intervention. The intervention did occur. So now we believe that the end is very near.
And the opportunity to take our country back and bring it back to the right path is now available to us.
A lot of people are asking, too, with regards to, and Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, was asked about this morning. Some reporters said, how long are you going to stay there? They're going to stay there until the mission is done. They're not putting a limit on it. By the way, that same reporter asked, how many military personnel do we have in the theater, and how many more are you going to add? And Hegseth just laughed at this reporter, saying, do you think I'm going to tell you in this live news conference how many people we have there, how many people we're going to add? Do you not understand that our enemy is probably watching this news conference right now? It is amazing to me the types of questions being asked by mainstream reporters as if we're going to tell the world our military plans.
You know, what has struck me over the weekend as I was thinking about this, and of course we all were thinking this was coming over the weeks past as we brought carrier groups into proximity to Iran, is I was thinking about just how messy world history is. I've been listening to a series, this is probably maybe boring to some people, but I've been listening to a series of podcasts about Rome against Carthage in the Punic Wars. 3 wars fought between Rome and Carthage back, before the time of Christ, over an 80-year period, and how messy that was, and how it was back and forth, and they had this treaty, and then this side broke that, and I was thinking about current world history. Our part, we're not without blame. I just want to say this in terms of the situation in Iran. There was a duly elected leader of Iran that was wanting to nationalize the oil industry over there, that was cozying up to the Soviet Union. And in 1953, that leader was assassinated. There are many people who think the CIA instigated that and then installed the Shah of Iran. Okay. And because it was a pro-Western leadership and regime in Iran, the mullahs over there, the Islamic radicals, got angry. They instigated the takeover, and the Shah of Iran was ousted. And so there are people who will say, well, that's, the U.S. should have kept its nose out. Well, you know what? We were locked in a life and death struggle with the Soviet Union. We couldn't have all that oil falling into the hands of our enemies, so maybe we did get involved. And people say, well, that's bad on us. Okay, well, let me just tell you, you can go back throughout history for thousands of years. It's all ugly. It's all confusing. It's all nasty. You do what you have to do to try to protect your own country's best interests. I think that's what President Trump has in his mind and in his heart. And what former presidents had been doing wasn't working with Iran. The Obama administration, Tim, you mentioned, sent that pallet of cash. The Biden administration loosened some sanctions, unfroze money that went back to Iran to help fund their buildup of this nuclear program. Folks, it's all messy. It's hardly anything clear-cut in history except for the kingdom of heaven and for the Bible and how Christians are to live. But when it comes to governments and what governments do, good luck trying to say we need to be lily white in all these matters, because that's how countries die.
Amen.
Amen, brother. All right, we're going to take a short time out. Fred, thank you.
You're welcome.
We're going to take a brief break here for news, and then we will be back with more with Steve Paisley Jordahl coming up after this time out. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
Getting married, starting a family, their eternal values and ideals.
These are core values that shaped this country for so long. These are values and ideals that are rooted in Scripture. They're eternal values and ideals.
At the Core with Walker Wildman and Rick Green, where culture meets biblical truth. Weekdays at 1 Central on AFR.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. The State Department is still advising Americans around the world to remain cautious as protests against the U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran break out at embassies worldwide. Jillian Turner at the State Department with more.
Most U.S. embassies in the Mideast remain under shelter-in-place or evacuation orders. In Baghdad, hundreds of Iraqis attempted to storm the fortified Green Zone, home to the U.S. Embassy over the weekend. Early this morning, smoke seen rising above the U.S. Embassy in Kuwait as well, the latest U.S. diplomatic outpost to face fallout from the U.S. and Israeli strikes inside Iran. In Athens, Greece, more than 1,000 people gathered to the streets outside the U.S. Embassy there. Demonstrators held signs reading, "Hands off Iran."
The Pentagon addressing the ongoing military offensive by the U.S. and Israel against Iran, which ultimately resulted in the killing of the Iranian Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. War Secretary Pete Hegseth says the operation was a clear and decisive mission to destroy the potential threat of Iranian missiles and nuclear weapons.
If you kill Americans, if you threaten Americans anywhere on earth, we will hunt you down without apology and without hesitation, and we will kill you. We didn't start this war, but under President Trump, we are finishing it.
Texas Senator Ted Cruz says he fully supports the operation, adding he believes this was the most consequential decision made by President Trump since returning to office.
The reason he made the decision to go in and take out the Ayatollah, take out the military leadership that was carrying out hostility to the United States is because they posed a significant danger to the United States.
Law enforcement are investigating if a shooter who killed 2 people and wounded 14 others in Austin, Texas early Sunday was a terrorist inspired by the ongoing war in Iran. Madeline Rivera has more.
Austin police now identifying the suspect as Jaga Janya. They say Janya drove to a bar on West 6th Street, which is a bustling stretch full of restaurants, bars, and music venues. Janya began shooting out of his car windows, hitting several people. Then he allegedly drove down the street, parked his car, got out with a rifle, and shot more people. Police ultimately shot and killed him. And multiple federal sources tell Fox Janya was wearing an undershirt with an Iranian flag on it. They say Janya was a 53-year-old naturalized citizen who was born in Senegal. Several sources also tell our Brooke Taylor Janya came to the U.S. in March 2000.
A new poll finds Americans sympathize more with so-called Palestinians than Israelis. Chris Woodward has more.
The poll is from Gallup, which for many years found a majority of Americans lean more towards Israelis than Palestinians. For example, it was just a few years ago that 54% of Americans sympathized more with the Israelis compared to 31% for the Palestinians. Today, 41% say their sympathies lie more with the Palestinians, and only 36% said the same about the Israelis. Dr. Zachary Marshall of Campus Reform thinks the shift away from Israel in American public opinion is being driven by younger generations.
This is coming from both the left and the right. We are seeing a resurgence of anti-Semitism from both the far left and the far right. And it is part of a long history of anti-Semitism being fashionable and seen as something to take part in that is consistent with historical patterns in the United States and in the West.
Marshall also thinks there is a single-minded focus on the Palestinian issue among Americans, one that he finds disingenuous.
You never hear them say anything about the plight of the Christians being slaughtered in Nigeria, and you never hear them say anything about the Iranian suffering under the Islamic Republic. So I think this is just an explosion of disingenuous hatred of Israel and the Jews, because that has always operated as currency and is currently operating as currency in social media spaces.
I'm Chris Woodward.
And crude oil prices jumped 6% today, which will mean higher prices soon at the gas pump. More news online at afn.net and on the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Hey, have you considered becoming a Great Commission partner? If you do, you'll be joining others who believe like you and are determined to defend against those who want to destroy God's institution of the family. You'll also receive some great benefits, like full access to AFA Stream, a monthly subscription to our magazine, access to exclusive donor events, and more as our thanks for your support. Please stop by afr.net/donate today for all the details. afr.net/donate.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildmon, President of the American Family Association.
Welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. We got 24 and a half more minutes left of this show here, this program on Monday, March the 2nd, 2026. Tim, Ed, and now Steve Paisley Jordahl joins us. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, everybody.
So, Steve, you've been monitoring.
A lot of stuff happening.
Yeah, I know, right? You've been monitoring the comments of President Trump. Is he giving some sort of update today or what?
Yeah, so he is in the middle of a Medal of Honor ceremony, and as the president, all presidents are wont to do when they have a ceremony like this and there's breaking news, he starts with, I want to update everybody. And this is the first minute or so of what he had to say. It's a little bit of a justification of why we went there. It's not groundbreaking, but it is a little bit. Wasn't able to listen to the whole thing, so we can bring more of that in tomorrow if it's relevant. Cut 19.
And not to make any attempt to rebuild at a different location because they weren't able to use the ones that we so powerfully blew up. But they ignored those warnings and refused to cease their pursuit of nuclear weapons. In addition, the regime's conventional ballistic missile program was growing rapidly and dramatically, and this posed a very clear, colossal threat to America and our forces stationed overseas. The regime already had missiles capable of hitting Europe and our bases, both local and overseas, and would soon have had missiles capable of reaching our beautiful America. The purpose of this fast-growing missile program was to shield their nuclear weapon development and make it extraordinarily difficult for anyone to stop them from making these highly forbidden by us nuclear weapons.
By the way, President Trump has an excellent speechwriter.
Yes, he
or
does.
writers. I don't know. I don't know their names, but all presidents have speechwriters.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, listen, when President Trump speaks extemporaneously, is that the right word?
Mm-hmm.
He's oftentimes, but he's very personable, very offensive.
At times, yes.
At times.
Yeah.
At times. That's just how he talks. He just talks out loud, and a lot of times that's, Ed, as you said, that's the New Yorker in him.
I think so.
Right,
no gate.
Yeah, it doesn't work sometimes. Sometimes he makes me mad by the things he says. But I would just say this: in this case, he would be wise to stick with the script as much as possible in the next few days, in particular. He's apt to just go off. You guys understand what I'm saying here? Right now, in this moment, this time, I think he would do, and I think he did. But those comments right there, he was reading. So I'm just saying, be careful with your words at this moment. This is not the world's watching type situation.
And paying attention to every word.
Yes. Does that make sense? You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, yes, Trump's, he has his personality, and either you like him or you don't. Most people do. But I find it refreshing that he is open with his comments to the media. He'll take questions.
Right.
He'll do interviews. I mean, it's like all comers. I'm ready to talk. I'll tell you what. I'll answer the questions, as opposed to previous administrations where everything. Well, Biden busts his heart. He couldn't talk to anybody about anything except bring me the ice cream. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I don't know, before that, Barack Obama did some with the media, Democrat I'm talking about. But for a lot of presidents, they hide and they don't answer questions.
Everything is very measured.
Everything. With Trump, not so much.
Right. And this is true about his first administration after
Yeah.
being elected and starting in 2016. Remember, he'd coming off the helicopter, he would just stop at the rope line and just talk for an hour.
You know what I attribute
media.
that to? President Trump, when he was running for office, was all too familiar with the media. He was the media.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a
Celebrity.
Celebrity. He'd been doing this for years. This was nothing uncomfortable with him.
Right.
So, and people liked his frank talk. That's what was a lot of his attraction from his support base at the time, was because of his, unfiltered, say it like it is.
Right.
Personality. All right, you're listening to Today's Issues on American Family Radio. Steve, what do you got?
I wanted to continue and update a couple things you guys talked about last hour. I know that you guys talked, Fred brought in the topic of Iranians around the world and in the United States celebrating because of this. I wanted to bring in one particularly relevant example. Because we talked last week as Ramadan was starting about Muslims filling Times Square and deciding to do their prayer in public. Their,
no permit, blocking traffic.
Just blocking traffic, laying down rugs, hundreds and hundreds of them. Well, yesterday, or maybe even today, I'm not sure exactly when this video was shot, thousands of Persians showed up in Times Square, and they sang together what is what is being called the true Iranian national anthem. I'm assuming it was before the Islamic, whatever they used during the 60s and 70s and everything. And the video, which we don't have, I can get to Brent, but the people are weeping with joy. Just listen to a little bit of cut 17. There were Iranian flags and American flags and Jewish flags. Whoever thought you'd see those three together? So what you guys were talking about early, or last hour, is absolutely true. Persians around the world, and Persians are the people who live in Iran, the ethnic people who live in Iran. They are ecstatic today because of the fall of Iran. You guys also talked about Mayor Zoran Mamdani's statement, where he talked about to New Yorkers, oh, you'll be safe here and everything. There is a Voice of America Persian News Network anchor. Her name is Masha Alinejad. And I want to read what her reply to Zoran Mamdani is. Listen to this. To you, Zoran Mamdani, you stayed quiet when we faced massacre, when Islamic Republic assassins were sent here in New York to kill us. Stay quiet now. Stop lecturing us Iranians about peace. I don't feel safe in New York listening to someone like you, Mamdani, who sympathizes with a regime that killed more than 30,000 unarmed Iranians in less than 24 hours. You talk about safety of this beautiful city? Listen carefully. Safety without justice means nothing. We Iranians do not allow you to lecture us about a war while you had nothing to say when the Islamic Republic shot schoolgirls and blinded more than 10,000 innocent people in the streets. You were busy celebrating hijab while women of my beloved Iran were jailed and raped by Islamic security forces for removing them. And now you find your voice to defend the regime? No, I will not let you claim the moral high ground. The people of Iran want to be free. Where were you when they needed solidarity? New York belongs to the people who stand against terrorism, not those who excuse it. This city is stronger than fear, stronger than propaganda, stronger than you think.
Well, there are people in this world who may live in the United States. They might have been able to get here legally. And there are a lot of Iranians who have done that over the years since the Islamic...
You say legally or illegally?
Legally.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Since the regime was overthrown in 1979. But I think about people like North Koreans or Koreans, Cubans, who, when they finally see those oppressive regimes end, will react the same way as these Iranians. Mm-hmm. They love their home country. They probably have family members there. By the way, I did not know that when she says that 30,000 were murdered in 24 hours.
Yeah. I never heard that before.
That part I had not heard. I didn't realize it was so quick.
Yeah, well, it was within 24 hours of 48 hours, the protesters figured out that it was a death sentence to be in the streets. So they kind of retreated. It didn't take long for them to retreat to their houses. Their passion didn't fade, but their presence did. Well,
Hey,
by necessity.
We haven't talked about this story, but what happened in Austin, Texas?
I'm ready.
Go.
So, Austin, Texas, there was a mass shooting early Sunday morning. A gentleman named Diego Diagni showed up at a bar and opened fire. He rolled down his windows, actually, outside a bar, and he started shooting. By the end of the rampage, 2 people were dead, 14 others injured. The suspect was also killed by police. He was wearing a T-shirt that said "Property of Allah" and was carrying a shotgun. He is born in Senegal, emigrated here, and then got U.S. citizenship several years ago. So he was an American citizen, but there is...
Because he married an American.
Yes. There is a lot of people thinking that this had something to do, maybe revenge for what's going on in Iran. They're related ideologically. I don't know. I can't confirm that, but they are treating it as an act of terror.
Honestly, I was a little surprised that there weren't more of these across the country, and there's still time for that to happen, simply because of my guess is that there are terror cells in this country with Iranians who are waiting to get the thumbs up, and maybe that's not coming because Khomeini's dead and others, but this is a very serious thing. We had 4 years of that southern border being wide open, people coming across the northern border as well under the Biden administration. We just don't have a clear idea of exactly who's here and why they're here, and that is a little unnerving.
To your point, if I may, to your point, this is retired FBI agent Charles Marino, cut 16.
There's no doubt that law enforcement and intelligence agencies are operating at an elevated threat level here in the United States, and that's based on the correct operating assumption that the United States has been allowed to be infiltrated with a myriad of threats from around the globe, thanks in large part to the policies of the Biden administration, which turned our borders into a sieve. Now, with respect to the potential of this being linked to terrorism, that has grown exponentially because of the illegal population, the undercutting and exploitation of programs like asylum and temporary protective status, and yes, even the legal immigration process.
Okay, this guy who, how many died?
There are 4 dead and 14 injured at the my latest. Yeah.
So he walks up and he's wearing he died with this on. The cop shot him, right?
Yes.
Or somebody did.
Yes. Police believe.
He has a shirt on and a Quran in the automobile that he was driving, according to the FBI I saw yesterday. What did the T-shirt say he was wearing?
It was a sweatshirt and it said "Property of Allah."
Okay, so this was would you call him a Muslim extremist, Ed?
Well, I don't think we know everything about this guy. His name
by the T-shirt.
Or the
sweatshirt. So
he's certainly allowed in this country to wear a shirt or a sweatshirt that promotes his faith. The question that I'll have to wait, because the FBI is calling it an act of potential terrorism, to see if that faith led him to do the shooting.
I will add to that this is an American citizen, and so I think the journalist may be operating on a little bit of a different innocent until proven guilty in a court of law rubric.
Okay, fellas, if that's what y'all want to believe.
Yeah.
No, I didn't say that's what I believe.
We'll go with that one.
That's what I'm saying publicly.
I'm with Ed.
On the radio, where people might be listening. Go ahead.
When you wear a sweatshirt that says what?
Property of Allah.
Property of Allah. So I don't think he just pulled that out of his drawer.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Randomly. And then you go with what kind of weapons you carrying?
It's I believe it's a shotgun.
And then you start killing people, knowing that you're going to die by it's suicide by cop, is what it is right there. Sounds like to me. This guy was going to kill the infidels so that he could go to paradise. Because he was what did he call himself on the T-shirt, on the sweatshirt?
Property of Allah.
Okay, so he's property of Allah. So this is what I would say about that. For those who say, well, we just don't know what the motivation was. I don't know. Maybe he would give us a sign. There's nothing funny about the killings. I'm not talking about that. But that's the approach that even the FBI, in the press conference yesterday I saw, we don't know the motivation yet. Now, they did say, the spokesperson I saw say, it does appear that he was motivated by, his beliefs.
And it was found to have an Iranian flag and photos of Iranian leaders in his home. Okay.
So what?
Listen.
So what could his motive be? I wonder.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't say anything inaccurate, did I?
No, you didn't. So I would say this. Joe Biden and the lefties have been warning us that the rise of white supremacy in this country is the greatest threat. Remember Joe Biden saying that time and time again? Hello, fellas. I'm doing a show here.
I'm listening to you.
I did.
Y'all listen to me. You didn't respond. I asked a question.
I didn't want to interrupt. I've been accused of doing that.
So, remember that? So we're still waiting on this massive, acts of terror by the white supremacists out there. They're missing they haven't showed up yet. I don't know what the problem is. But I think the problem is that white supremacy is not a big deal in America anymore. Yeah, you might find one here, one there. They're not accepted. They don't, it's the reason that the left pushes the white supremacy is the greatest threat to our country is they don't want to have you talk about those people who are killing in the name of Islam, or the Antifa types, or the people who kill motivated by their left-wing ideology. Okay, so that's the way they tried to whip up support for their cause by saying to minorities, "Hey, you better watch out for those white supremacists. They're gonna put y'all back in chains." Remember what Biden was telling them?
Yeah,
telling black folks, the white folks are gonna put y'all back in chains if you don't vote for me. Remember that? Right.
And if you don't vote for me, you're not black enough.
You're not black. Remember all that stuff?
Oh, yeah.
They do that every election cycle to try to say, ironically, President Trump got a highest percentage of African Americans and Hispanic voters of any Republican presidential candidate. Now, I don't know what that means, trending. Is that going to continue forward? I'm just saying that had this been a guy wearing a sweatshirt that said KKK or prophet of Adolf Hitler or something, that people wouldn't be saying, we're going to wait and see what the motive is.
Okay.
And they would say, here we go. Here's the white supremacy. They're at it. I told you they would arrive sometime. Here they are. So anyway, we'll see what happens with this. But I think probably the guy looked like to me, just from appearance, he looked like some kind of lone wolf. But they say that there could be terrorist cells in the United States that will, that may attack. But my question when we hear that is, don't we always have terrorist cells that could attack every day of every month of every year? I mean, why? You know what I'm saying? Why?
Well, but I think the reason for that is that those terrorist cells exist in the United States kind of undercover, waiting for the right opportunity to strike, something that will be in retaliation for something that the U.S. does, like what we have done in Iran, or for some kind of widespread impact. So they don't, just because they exist, it is not meant to suggest that they will always be performing their terrorist activities, but they're waiting, biding their time. So I think the FBI is, as this clip indicates, is on high alert because this would be the moment when some of those cells might retaliate for what we did in Iran.
Yeah, I understand that. But also the flip side of that is, why would you want to attack when the FBI is on high alert? You know, why would you want to wait till?
And they might.
Well, they might.
That could be why they haven't.
All right, next story, Steve.
All right, are you guys ready to move
We're
past
ready to
the
move
one?
on,
All
Steve.
right.
I'm ready to move on.
We're ready to move on.
By the way, I do want to say my phone was getting blown up. I did call this guy.
Blown up's not a good word. Right
Oh,
now.
yeah.
You change that if you would.
Hey, I did call him a gentleman, this Diagni guy in Austin. That's just a slip of the tongue. That's what I call it. Everybody initially, clearly, he's not
The killer? You
He's
called
not
him a gentleman?
Yeah, I said this gentleman.
Yeah, I know.
And so
This male.
one of my friends was
male.
only too happy to question me.
Right. Go ahead, Steve.
We live to make sure that you're a better man.
Right.
Ed.
I try to be. I'm getting it from every direction.
Except for unwanted pets at his house.
Yeah, they deserve it.
Now, we often hear from Robert Kennedy Jr. About health issues and everything, but it goes without noticing sometimes that this country does not have a Surgeon General at this point.
You don't.
What has this got to do with Iran? I'm just kidding. I'm
It
just
doesn't.
kidding. Nothing to do with it. All right, go ahead.
We don't have a Surgeon General?
We don't have a Surgeon General. One has been nominated.
Good night.
I knew my life was in a bad shape.
Yeah, I know, right? Her name is Casey Means,
Okay.
Means, and President
Mean girl.
Yeah, President Trump has put her through. She's facing some pushback, not only from Democrats because she's Trump's nominee, but from some Republicans because, well, it's a little bit about her spiritual foundations for some of us.
What?
So in her own newsletters and interviews, I'm reading from Not the Bee.
Excuse me if I interrupt you, Steve.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Who are we talking about? And she's nominated
She is nominated.
by President Trump? She has to be confirmed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you're reading what she's written here? She's a
I'm
doctor.
going to read what she's
Okay,
written.
Go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. These are some of the things that she's written. This
All right.
would be our Surgeon General.
All right.
She said, I set up a small meditation shrine in my house and prayed to photos of my ancestors, asking for support on my personal journey.
Okay.
I worked with a spiritual medium who helped me try to connect with my spirit guides for support and guidance.
Yeah.
I did full moon ceremonies with grounded, powerful women where we called in abundance.
That's disappointing.
I hiked and talked literally out loud to the trees and onward.
I've done that. When I've been golfing.
Yeah. You
And I
see
hit a
trees
bad
lot?
shot.
You've
And
talked
let me
to
tell
your
you,
club.
there's a tree around there that's going to get a tongue lashing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this is a
This is a pagan,
Yeah.
earth worshiping, goddess
probably eats tofu,
worshiper.
with sauce on top.
Although I don't know if it's fair to me to say that just because of what she wears on her sweatshirt or what she says. So I do want to withhold judgment.
And I need to take back my tofu thing because I don't even know what that is, hardly. But I know people eat it who are sometimes fruitcakes.
Is it related to toe jam? Is it
I don't
tofu?
know.
I don't think so.
A flower child. That's what I call her.
Yeah.
So this is a pagan who's been nominated. These are some kind of weird spirits. Listen, it's America. You are allowed to worship.
You are.
Yeah, however you want. I don't know that this is the best selection on the
For
part
Surgeon
of the president
General?
for Surgeon General.
So you've been talking to trees, have you? You want to tell what the trees say back
I'd
to
like
you?
to know what they
I
say.
don't know what the tree says. Is she made an appearance before the Senate committee yet? Or
I
no?
don't know where that is in the process.
I wonder
I'm
where
sorry.
I wonder if her nomination's in danger just because of
I think it is.
stuff coming
Think
out.
so. Think so. It's in danger. I don't know.
Well,
Danger, Will
technically
Robinson.
she's allowed to, freedom of religion, but I don't want a pagan running the medical
Yeah.
system
All right.
on the federal level.
Well, we're out of time. It's probably a good thing.
And I don't want any white supremacists running it either.
You also
and
don't
they're
want-
they're everywhere.
And you don't want any more stray pets at your house either.
No,
But
I do not. But that's
All right.
that's obviously
we're
not
out of time,
productive.
folks. Thank you for yours. We'll see you tomorrow.
God's hand has been upon this nation from the beginning.